Well, thank you all very much for having me. My name is Spencer Grimes. I'm the founder and co-owner of Texas Best Solar. I'm here because we helped out Jay over here about a year ago with the solar and battery backup. Kind of mutual connection. My dad was a pilot, Jay's a pilot, and a pilot introduced us, so there's pilots of it going around here. So, but basically, we are officing in an actual brick and mortar warehouse. We're not just running out of my garage in Old Town Louisville. We've been around since 2017. My business partner is a luxury custom home builder. He no longer builds homes, and he's fully on the solar side. So I only have a few gray hairs, okay? But my business partner is 64, and so he's got all the wisdom. So I've got the energy. But so that's a brief introduction about who I am. Our company, what we stand for. I served time in the Marine Corps, so our core principles are honor, courage, commitment, honor your word, have the courage to admit when you make a mistake, and a commitment to excellence. So that's as far as much of a sales pitch you're going to get from me, but that's just the introduction. So thank you all for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, sorry about the projector, but we're going to keep on muscling through. So a couple of things of point of order of what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the Texas energy grid and what does the future hold with the Texas energy grid. And we'll get more specific into CoServe. So how does solar work with CoServe? It's nice to know that there's 3 of y'all that have solar with CoServe, 2 of y'all with battery. You don't have a battery on your?
I don't have a battery, I don't have CoServe either.
Oh, okay, all right. Who do you have?
Really?
I have Tesla Electric.
And you're here in Robeson
I'm
Ranch?
in Justin.
Oh, okay, I got you. Makes
I was
sense.
gonna say, they won't let you, act like doing that, won't let you do it.
Yeah. If you have CoServe, it's like Henry Ford. You can have any electric company you want as long as it's CoServe. We're going to talk about why solar and batteries make sense today, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I've already told you a little bit about who we are, but and then talk about how we go about recommending solar systems and battery systems for your individual home in the process. And Don and I, we already had our little thought experiment here earlier on how to back up for 2 months. We usually don't go that far, but I'm open to any question you have today. If you've got a question, I know give me an opportunity to speak and then write it down. I'm going to open the floor to lots of questions. So, all right. So right now, you've probably heard that the state of Texas is growing exponentially. Okay, we're just listening to a live stream about them expanding 377. And the roads here are becoming atrocious. The utility grid, to a degree, has become atrocious, and not because of necessarily, I believe, any political mismanagement or anything like that. Our grid has allowed our economy to grow. Truly, it is the fuel for the engine that allows our economy to grow. And so there are pros and cons of everything that we do and everything that politicians do, but I'm a firm believer that cutting through red tape and bureaucracy is a net benefit to you, the consumer. Whether you're working or not working, it helps your money go a little bit further. It's nice to have some options. And so speaking of options, Texas is the most diversified electric grid in the country, okay? Primarily, we run off natural gas. So it's roughly about 50%. It depends on the time of day, but on an average for the year, it's about 50%. And then you've got wind and solar that make up about 25%. Coal was at 50% when I started doing this in 2017, and they have lost their crown, King Coal, to natural gas because of fracking is so much more cost effective. And natural gas it's a cleaner burning energy source. And y'all are sitting on the Barnett Shale here, so there's a money pit right underneath y'all. Actually, a few miles north is where it was first extracted with fracking, so kind of history in this area. Coal makes up a portion of it, and then after that, you've got nuclear. We got 2 nuke plants that makes up about 10% of the power. It's just constant all day, every day. There's a great argument that nuclear, we should have some more of it. And we basically don't have any hydroelectric to speak of. We do have some, but not enough to even really show up on the Richter scale. This year it's wet, but next year, who knows what the lakes will look like. And there's not much topography around. So The key component I wanna hammer home here is that this is a graph, and I know it's hard to see, but from 2019 to 2023, ERCOT deal, and you all know who ERCOT was. Prior to 2021, I used to talk to people about ERCOT, and their eyes glazed over. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We all know who they are, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. They are charged with putting forth a 5-year study on what the state's energy mix sources and capacity will be. So what's the outlook? What's the capacity of production on the generators, the big giant power plants, and what's the load gonna look like? And what's the delta? Do we have a reserve capacity? By law, we are mandated to have a 13.5% reserve capacity. That means when it hits the fan, we have the ability to fire on 13% more generators to make it happen. Funny story, funny anecdote, back in the end of April, beginning of May, it was unseasonably warm for a couple of days. A lot of natural gas power plants were offline. You may have gotten a notice from CoServ that said, please conserve your power, and you're thinking, it's April, what are we doing here? This is gonna be a rough summer. But basically, the cost of electricity in Texas is variable. Every 15 minutes, it's bought and sold, okay? It's a New York Stock Exchange of electricity. CoServ's buying, Denton Municipal's buying, Encore's buying, Texas and Mexico's buying, Tri-County Electric's buying. They're all buying in bulk at the beginning of the year, but of course, it's just a guesstimation, okay? And they're gonna have to deal with, on the margins, the cost differentials. Well, when your reserve margin last year was at 7.5%, and we have a state mandate to be at 13.5%, we're way off the mark, okay? Now, why is our reserve margin so low? Well, one, natural gas and renewable energy took off like a banshee. It took off like a rocket over the last decade. It made coal uncompetitive. So coal has to run 365, 24/7. They're shoveling coal all day. They can't turn it off when the cost of electricity is low at night, and then turn it on when the cost of electricity goes back up. So long story short, the Texas grid is very dynamic. We have AI data centers. The data center up in Denton consumes 3 times. This is from the assistant GM at Denton Municipal Electric. So if I'm wrong on this number, you can blame him. The data center off Jim Crystal Road in Denton with Denton Municipal Electric uses 3 times the amount of electricity that the entire city of Denton does in a year.
Whoa.
So as we increase data centers, to run our clouds, they're not actually clouds, they're big buildings that are air conditioned and have servers in there. And then you throw in crypto mining, you throw in the semiconductor manufacturing, and then on top of that, everybody and their mama's moving here and building a house because it's, the American dream is still alive here in Texas. Well, you've got a situation where supply and demand are at odds. Cost of electricity goes up. Every single one of you saw your electricity bill, your rate go up by 50% in the last year. Maybe not you because you're on Tesla Electric, but anyone who is here that has CoServ, you don't have a choice. So your rate went up. The cost of natural gas went up. CoServ is primarily purchasing their power, they were, from Brazos Power Electric. They went belly up, or they went restructuring bankruptcy after the Snowmageddon, and then Russia invaded Ukraine, and so the cost of natural gas, which is a global commodity, went up exponentially. I mean, like 5 to 6 times. And so CoServ is a big purchaser, but at the end of the day, they're still mostly beholden to one single fuel source. And they still are. They're doing a good job diversifying. I'm telling you, even if you're upset with CoServ, you've got the best. I have CoServ as well, but you have the best electric company in North Texas. There's no doubt. I work with a lot of them. A lot of them are, you like my comment, they're mouth breathers, okay? CoServ is excellent. Their ability to respond, their net metering is great. But anyhow, not to get too sidetracked, that is a broad overview of what the state of Texas electric grid looks like. Because as you all know, if you didn't know, back in 2021, we're on an island, okay? Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico, and Texas. Those are island electric grids. Now, there are some DC tie-ins that are being built, but not enough to make a dent so that way we can import and export excess power to other states. But it's not really even a lifeline. It's like a piece of twine that we're throwing out there, so. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. Obviously, I just got done talking about this. The electric rates have gone up. Since 1970, the average rate of increase, 1970 to 2018, average rate increase for electricity in Texas was 3% per year. What else roughly averages 3% a year? Inflation. Okay? So you have in the last since COVID, you have $10 trillion injected into the monetary supply. You have what I just talked about with the natural gas market. You also have disruptors like wind and solar and natural gas totally disrupting the energy market that has caused the volatility in addition to people moving here, that the demand relative to the supply has caused the cost to go up a lot more than 3%. So CoServ, we all saw about a 50% rate hike just a year ago, and it could go up. You know, it's more than likely gonna go up after it did about 10 years of staying pretty steady. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, I did have a lot more stuff to show y'all, so I might have to hit the pause button in a second, but how does CoServ's solar net metering work? Okay, when did you get your solar installed, sir?
4 years ago.
4 years ago?
Not
Okay.
on the net metering yet.
You're not on net metering, okay. You're actually grandfathered in for
Yeah,
forever.
I know.
So
Well, they said in
They changed
last
it.
year, the CoServ guys came here, said that in the by 5 years, everybody would be over the net metering.
they changed it, very quietly,
Thank goodness.
and it's because they had pitchforks at their front door and
Yeah.
they were gonna light the place on fire, so. What solar is like with an interconnection with CoServ right now is you're gonna be pulling at night if you don't have batteries, or if you discharge your batteries to a certain point where they stop feeding the house, you're gonna pay the regular rate, 14 cents, okay? Any energy that you export, you net export to them daily, every 15 minutes, they're reading your energy. It's called interval data. They're gonna give you roughly 9 cents per kilowatt hour credit. So you give you about 75 cents on the dollar, which is pretty good, and they'll allow it to roll over. Now, you can do some quick math. That 75 cents on the dollar is not dollar for dollar, and so there's still a 25-cent delta or 25% delta that CoServ is, they still need to make money to service the lines and things of that nature. Now, one way to mitigate this is what these two gentlemen have done, is implement a battery. Now, it does not have to be a whole home backup battery. If you have 2 power walls and you have 20 kilowatt hours of battery, that's a quote unquote whole home battery backup. You can start with something small, 9, 10, 13 kilowatt hours, like 1 power wall basically is that size. And you can, instead of, you're producing solar, and during the middle of the day, you're producing the maximum amount of solar. So at high noon, you're producing the maximum amount of solar, but you're probably out playing golf. You're having lunch. You're visiting with Fred and Jane. You're having time. Maybe you're at home watching TV, but you're not doing hard labor in the house. The majority of that solar at that time period is going to energize your home, and the excess is going to be fed back into CoServ's grid, okay? That's where they're going to account for the cost voided. That's what it's called, cost voided. 9 cents per kilowatt hour is what they credit you. If you have a battery, you recharge the battery. And then at night, when the sun goes down, you draw off the battery. So you're producing power, in the morning, you're recharging the battery, you're energizing the loads in your home, and then when the sun starts to go down, the battery, it gets handed off and says, we'll take it from here, y'all. And so now you get dollar for dollar, you've closed the loop, okay? So you're minimizing the amount of kilowatt hours that you're sending to CoServ, and believe it or not, they want this. I'm helping right now, I've introduced 2 battery companies, Canadian Solar and Tesla, to the main head shed, Paul Virag at CoServe, who's in charge of buying and selling the power for the year. They want to do, I'm gonna cover this in just a second, but they wanna do a virtual power plant system, okay? I'm gonna put a pin in that, we're gonna come back to that, because that's where the whole entire, yes, sir?
So I have a friend in Houston, and they're not doing solar panels, they're just putting batteries in
Sure,
and charging up those batteries, keeping them topped off. So, of course, they have a lot of weird stuff that happens down
Sure.
there, right?
Yeah.
But that's what he's doing.
okay.
And I don't know if you've done any of that, where you just put the battery itself in and not the panels.
I've not done that, but it is an option. Now, the downside of that, that's more comparing it to the backup generator.
Mhm.
Sorry, what was your name, sir?
Jerry?
Jerry, that's what Jerry was talking about. Stop calling you, pointing at you.
Right.
So Jerry was talking about a backup generator, and then if you have a
I don't
backup,
have a generator. I don't have a generator.
I know, you were
That's why I
talking,
went away from it.
that's what I'm saying, is that you were
Yeah.
talking about the quote of it for $18,000.
Yeah,
And if you get a battery backup system without solar, it's essentially like having a backup